Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Live with Sequoyah Fund. Today, I'm excited to interview Lauffer of EmPOWERing Mountain Food Systems, an organization located right here in Cherokee, serving Western North Carolina. Welcome, Laura, to the show. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks. It's great to be here, Russ. Thanks for inviting me.
So I know that you're located on the Qualla boundary. Your office is right next door to Sequoyah Fund. But I wanted to talk with you a little bit about what EmPOWERing Mountain Food Systems does. This is a pretty major program and exciting program. Tell us what you do.
Yeah, so this is a collaborative project. I work for NC State University through Cooperative Extension, and the EBCI office is hosting us, and so I'm thrilled to be able to work here in the boundary. We are funded by the Appalachian Regional Commission. It was a 3-year project. We received funding from Appalachian Regional Commission and actually the Cherokee Preservation Foundation as well. We are working in the region to help farmers increase income and also to kind of tighten up the supply chain. We really want to see local produce in schools, at Harrah's. We want to see more people buying produce at farmers markets. And we want to help the supply chain infrastructure develop. So that happens in many ways. So in addition to this supply chain work, we're also doing training and education. We have a fantastic relationship with your colleagues at the small business centers around the region doing business training. So that's a really important part of what we're doing.
So when you talk about the supply chain, we're not just talking about farmers, right? We're talking about everybody who serves the needs, the food needs of Western North Carolina. I know that you've done some expansion into helping restaurants through the COVID crisis and some maybe some CSAs and farmers markets and all along that food supply chain, right?
That's right. It's really interesting. A word that we're using a lot during COVID is pivot. And we have some fantastic pivot examples here in the region. Darnell Farms has pivoted to do home delivery of local produce. Guadalupe Cafe has pivoted to, they have their takeout, but when you go to pick up your takeout, you can also pick up meat and cheese, coffee. And then we have another restaurant yonder in Macon County that has also produce pickup. And so we were able to supply funding to all of those businesses to help them with their cold storage. In a time like this, when you have to expand quickly overnight, you can lose a lot of money if you can't keep your produce cool or your meat frozen. So we're able to help those types of businesses along the way.
So I know that we were in a meeting a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about the challenge of keeping that food cool. It seems like there's been a run on walk-in coolers and coolers for this type of business, for restaurants and for other food producers. What do you think is the cause of that?
Well, there's just the high demand. I mean, for instance, folks who are processing meat, you can't get into the meat processor. So when you can get in, you might take in an extra beef, right? And so where are you going to put it? So folks, if they can get into process, they're processing more and they need to store it. And so that's definitely a part of the supply chain that we're helping our meat processors to get more freezers. Oddly, because some restaurants are closing, sadly, we're working closely with Blue Ridge Restaurant Supply out of Asheville, and they are able to source previously used refrigerators and freezers, and we can get those out to farmers at a reduced rate and businesses at a reduced rate. So that's been a really good partnership.
It's unfortunate that it took an event like this to shake things up and force businesses, farmers to be more creative and a little more innovative. And like you said, make that pivot to doing some different things. Other than what examples you just gave us, are you seeing a general trend with farmers, a willingness to pivot, or has there been some reluctance?
Well, I don't talk to the folks who are reluctant. They're not going to reach out, but uh, they're like, what I say is, we're the solution. This is what people who work in local food systems have been saying, all along, is this is the sustainable system. When the world comes crashing down, you're going to call your local farmer and say, hey, I'm really concerned. How am I going to feed my family? There's no meat in the grocery stores. And people are relying on their neighbors like they used to long ago, right? So we do have folks who are planting more. It takes a while, right? So in March, when we're like, oh, I've sold out of everything I have in the ground already, it's going to take a couple months. So one of the businesses we're helping is a woman who was selling landscape plants and potted plants and ornamental things. And she, to be eligible to sell at the farmer's market, she had to have some vegetables. So come March, she did have some vegetables, but the demand was so high that we are funding her with some new soil so that she can add another greenhouse, put another greenhouse into production to plant transplants for fall vegetable production. So that's another type of pivot. And it is a bit risky, so say COVID goes away and you've got all that stuff in the ground and people are like, oh, okay, I'm back to my normal shopping. And we hope that folks will have a new appreciation for their neighbors and their farmers markets and roadside stands, and maybe, we'll make a permanent change into how they shop once the world gets back to normal. So there could be some farmers who are like, yeah, no, I'm not going to take that risk.
Yeah. And I do want to come back because there's a graphic that you showed us a couple of weeks ago that I want to show everybody, and I want to talk about that. It deals with some of the effects of COVID and what you've experienced in some of the results of a survey that went out. But I want to talk about this concept of, I think, what they're calling now hyperlocalization. Mm-hmm. It's one of the trends that has really come to the fore during COVID. I mean, since the beginning of commercial crops, since the beginning of commercial goods, we've had trade, we've had international trade, we've had trade with other regions, and so that's a story as old as time. And I think, if you live in a place that can't grow corn, obviously you need to buy it from a place that can grow corn. But this trend of hyperlocalization, talk to us about how important that is, because I know that a lot of tribes and a lot of native CDFIs are talking about the notion of food sovereignty. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And how important is that, and how has COVID sparked that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, the tribe here, Cherokee, folks are used to growing their own food and sharing. It is such a wonderful sharing economy, and people want to be able to take care of themselves so that you're not panicked. And some people have made the case. They're like, look, this is what Western North Carolina does. In March, we already had stuff put up from last year. My pantry, people are saying my pantry is full of tomatoes and dried beans, and I knew I would be okay. But maybe some other folks who don't have that cultural tradition, this idea of food sovereignty is new to them. We would love to see more production in the Qualla Boundary and more folks, not just the sharing economy, but also making that part of their household economy. We're really fortunate to have the cannery here in Qualla, and they are really busy. And we would like to expand the cannery And as you probably know, the tribe is doing some research now on meat processing facility in the boundary, and that would be very, very smart step towards food sovereignty if we could get some meat processing resources here.
So one of the issues that I know people deal with in all across Western North Carolina and in Cherokee as well is the issue of arable land. How are we going to see a growth in growth, for lack of a better term? How are we going to see a growth in the ability to produce without an increase in arable land? Because I mean, if you're between two slabs of granite, you're on a mountainside. You just don't have a lot of options. So, what are the options for increasing this food production?
Well, you know, we did a study in Graham County. We have a really good relationship with the business school at Western Carolina, and students did a study about an empty building. I believe it was a former furniture factory in Graham, and folks are really thinking about, you know, doing this internal hydroponic growing system. You know, when it comes to food security, this is an option in the mountains, and we have lots of empty buildings around from industry that has left. So that is something that is worth exploring. Rooftop production is something worth exploring for, you know, these rooftops that are idle, for even if they're active rooftops. But that's something that they do in urban areas, that there are lots of production on rooftops. You have people who have whole apiaries on rooftops and lots of food production. So you do have to think outside the box. So another thing is putting a high tunnel on arable land. And so if you have a high tunnel, you have the option to have season extension. You can start crops earlier and you can harvest them later. And that's something we're very, very interested in. And there are plenty of high tunnels in the region. And we want to do a survey to find out who's growing what. If you're not growing, why? Can we help you? And specifically make that linkage between the buyer. So if you've got that high tunnel sitting there and you're not using it for season extension in the shoulder seasons, why not? And can we help you do that? So that's part of the solution for sure.
So I know a lot of folks have heard the term hydroponic. They know what a greenhouse is. They may not know what a high tunnel is. Describe a high tunnel for us.
It's a greenhouse that is not heated artificially. So it's a greenhouse. Some people do put you know, a wood stove or a propane stove in there, but generally a high tunnel is more low tech than a big commercial greenhouse. It just think of it as a way to keep the temperature warmer in the winter and cooler in the summer, because you can open both ends and the sides and get some circulation in there, so that maybe something can stay in there longer out of the heat of the sun. So there's lots of potential. I mean, who has the first tomatoes and who has the, you know, the last of a crop? You know, the restaurants especially are like, you know, are always eager for the first and the last.
Wow. And it really does extend the growing season. I talked to a fellow who was using a high tunnel to grow stevia. I'd heard of stevia. I knew it was a sugar substitute. I had no idea how sweet this stuff was, but I took one of those tiny little stevia leaves and popped it. It was like I'd thrown a whole cup of sugar in my mouth.
Right.
It was amazing. It's incredible how much production he was able to get out of a very small space. When that is so, that plant is so much sweeter than sugar to begin with.
Right.
So,
and that brings up, you know, the herb industry. Guyam is one of the largest herbal companies in the world, and they're based right here in Transylvania County. And we're talking with them about how they can do more local procurement. They are very interested in working with more local producers so that they're not buying stuff from California or New Mexico. And so we really, that's definitely a goal of this project, is to help folks find opportunities for local production and local sales in the wholesale market, as well as the direct to consumer market.
You know, the farm to table concept used to be a differentiator for restaurants. And here in Western North Carolina, it doesn't seem to be that much of a differentiator anymore. A lot of folks are doing that, which I think is great. I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the trends that you saw, and I want to put this graphic up so we can talk about it. Your organization sponsored or initiated a study to ask people what has happened since the outset of COVID-19, and you got a pretty wide variety of things going on here. Talk to us about this graphic and what really stands. I mean, other than loss of restaurant sales, which I think the public sees, that's kind of an obvious thing. What are some things that we need to key in on with regards to this graphic?
Well, what's really positive is, this 25% purple there of increasing production due to higher demand is what I was talking about. And so, folks are like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to put more into the ground. I'm going to diversify. I'm going to put in, an extra row of tomatoes or potatoes or green beans, because folks are coming to market and there's a lot of demand. And then, of course, there's that need for increased food storage capability. And, when we went to Lowe's Hardware to buy a freezer for somebody, they're like, yeah, we're back ordered until October. And
wow.
So it's not just the farmers, it's the consumers. It's people of our generation are like, all right, I'm going to buy up everything I can at the farmer's market, and I'm going to put a freezer in the garage. And so consumers are also buying these supply equipment. So that's why we had to kind of do this side hustle and find Blue Ridge Restaurant Supply to do that. So and then launching on-site sales platforms. We've got, that's a pivot that a lot of folks did overnight. We're like, okay, if they have Square, where you swipe your card at the farmer's market, Square has an online platform. And so, so some businesses pivoted to that, to online sales, and they could do, door-to-door delivery, or, put it outside the farm and have folks come and pick up produce or products.
So I know a lot of the rural businesses that some of the things that we're talking about are just easier to do. When you talk about delivery, it's just easier to do in a big city. But a lot of folks have taken on this challenge and have done pretty well with their takeout, with their drive-through, with their delivery services, and just making a fundamental shift in how they get food into the hands of the consumers. It's pretty amazing to watch. We're going to come right back. No, go ahead.
Consumers are willing to do it too. Consumers like, yeah, I will drive to you. I'm going to go online and I'm going to clickety click, 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 and this is my box. We're filming the folks yonder in Franklin. We're going to do a video on their new operation. And what happens is people go online. I think Yonder sends them a link on Wednesday and says, or maybe it's Friday, and says, select what you want in your box: meat, cheese, produce, I think kombucha and beer, and clickety click, 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 pay for it, and we'll be there Thursday between 4 and 6 for you to come pick it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So it's empowering consumers as well.
I want to come back and talk to you about the program itself, Empowering Mountain Food Systems, and get you to tell us a little bit more about how you can help these folks directly. And we'll be right back after this. So I want to talk to you about how people can get in touch with you. I'm going to put up a little information here so that people have your information. They can send you an email. Um, but I want to talk about the site and what you offer on the website and what you offer in the program. If I'm a small grower and let's say I've got a victory garden out back and I've ramped up my production, I realize the need for food security, for food sovereignty, and I want to start growing and selling locally here. What can Empowering Mountain Food Systems do for me?
Well, one of the things we really want you to do is to come up with a business plan. And one of the reasons why we even came to Western North Carolina was because of the strong relationship of the community college small business centers at Southwestern Community College and Tri-County and Haywood have of working in the ag community. So the first thing we'll do is we'll interview you and find out, what's happening and how we can help you. But we really do want you to sit down with a small business center person and come up with your business plan and find out, okay, this is my potential market, this is my investment. And while we can pay for training if you're like, somebody came to us recently and wanted to get certified in herbalism. So we can do that. If you have a value added operation you want to get started, we have a wonderful relationship with the folks at Blue Ridge Food Ventures, and we have consultations with them. If you decide that you want to launch your website or become an LLC, we are working with 10Biz here in Dillsboro to help you with that. We have funding to help you with that. If you need a large loan, you have to have a good business track record. So that's not so much for the startup, but say you're really ready to launch and expand. We have a large loan program with Natural Capital Investment Fund. So those are the things we're focusing on now. We also have a fantastic apprenticeship program. So say you are interested in ramping up production, but you need a warm body. We have paying apprentices $12 an hour for up to 160 hours. We have 6 apprentices working currently with farm businesses, helping them with their social media because everything has to be remote right now. But we're hoping to get apprentices back on farms and in businesses. So we have this huge menu of things that we can do to help food and farming businesses in the region. And the first step, Russ, when you showed the website, there's that little purple button on the side that says apply now under the logo. It's kind of cut off there, but it's there. So you hit the apply now, there you go, and you fill in that application, and it's very short. And then I'll reach out to you and figure out what you need. But generally, the first step is for you to go to your small business center and meet with them, and figure out, what's my plan. A lot of people go into farming because they don't want to be in business. They don't want to sit behind a computer. They don't want to be inside. But we are making the point that for you to be successful, you need to know how much you're spending. You need to know how much you're investing. You need to pay yourself. You need to charge a fair price for your products so that you can indeed stay in business. And so that's something that we're very passionate about in this project. And I know, Russ, you can appreciate that doing the amount of business training that you do. And Sequoyah is a partner with us as well. So that's something we really emphasize in this project.
So as a partner with Empowering Mountain Food Systems, tell folks a little bit about what's going to happen if they come to Sequoyah Fund and apply for a loan. I think they get some of their costs covered under this program. Is that right?
So we have our loan program through Natural Capital Investment Fund.
Right.
That is a 30% cost share. We pivoted a lot of our other funding, Russ, to this COVID relief. And so that's where that chunk of money went. But we do have some other loan funds available.
But if somebody needs a loan, if you come to Sequoyah Fund, if you need a loan under this program, we can direct you to NCIF. We have a great relationship with Natural Capital Investment Fund. We have a great relationship with the small business centers. We will make sure that you get personal care from one of those small business centers. So either Laura's office or our office can be a good point of first contact for you, because we're going to make sure you get funneled to the right people, to the right resources, the right information, and get the things that you need to get your business where it needs to be. Traditionally, and when I started working with folks 25 years ago or so, this was back during the dawn of, I guess, the Golden Leaf Foundation. It was about 20 years ago or so, when a lot of tobacco farmers were pivoting to different crops. And a lot of those tobacco farmers didn't seem to view their business as a business. It was a farm, right. And farms are over here, businesses are over here. And it was a big, big shift for them, because they'd always grown tobacco. Maybe they were a second or even third generation tobacco farmer. They didn't have to really think about it. They knew what to do. They knew where to take it. They knew what they were going to get paid, right? And so to make that pivot, which is a great word, to different crops was different. But the pivot in the mind was even more important, that it was not just farming. It is a farm business, and it's got to be run like a business. So we only have a couple of minutes left. Laura, is there anything else folks need to know in terms of how to contact you, what to expect when they contact you, or what they can get out of this program?
Well, another thing I really wanted to emphasize is we have a fantastic relationship with Western North Carolina Farm Link. A lot of farmers are retiring, and they're not sure, maybe they want to keep their land in production, but their kids are not interested. Western North Carolina Farm Link is a matchmaker. And so there are many young farmers that, or middle-aged farmers that want to farm, but maybe don't have that grandpa or that uncle or that dad with some land, or that mom or grandma with land. And so Western North Carolina Farm Link is a very active partner. And Russ, we'd love to have you interview Will Hamilton from Western North Carolina Farm Link to talk about those resources. It's a real opportunity in Western North Carolina. We do have some, wonderful farmland, and a lot of younger generation folks might not want to, keep it going, but maybe the older generation does. And so we have a great tool to do that. So that's something I didn't touch on today that I really want to be sure that folks are aware of, Russ. And again, I really do think it would be a great interview for you. Excellent.
Yeah. Well, another interview for the list. We'll put them on there, and I'm sure you can help me make that contact, and
absolutely.
And we'll have another episode of Live with Sequoyah Fund. Laura Lauffer, thank you so much for joining us today. Folks, you got her email address scrolling across the bottom if you want to contact her and learn more about this amazing program, Empowering Mountain Food Systems. Please do that. If you need anything else business related in or around Cherokee, you can always contact us at sequoiahfund.org. With that, I am Russ Siegel, and we will see you next time on Live with Sequoyah Fund.
Thank you, Russ. I appreciate the time.
Thank you.